Real leadership isn't about titles. It's about the work it takes to earn your place. Showing up, staying when it's uncomfortable, doing the work long before anyone notices. Pull up a chair. This is A Seat at the Table with Melinda Brandt and Ashley Stroud.
Welcome in. I'm Melinda Brandt. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ashley Stroud. Ashley, it is so great to have you in here again.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me again, Melinda, and I'm super excited to meet our new guest tonight.
Yeah, this is A Seat at the Table where we're pulling up a chair with Dianna Kokoszka. Dianna, you've spent years, decades, I guess I should say, developing leaders, building businesses, helping people discover they're capable of far more than they probably have ever imagined on their own. But before the awards, before the books, before the stages, before the coaching, there's simply a young woman that was trying to figure out your own path. And that's where we want to get started. First, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, what were you like as a kid? What was growing up like for you?
Oh, I was full of vinegar, as my mother put it. I was looking for another word, yet at the same time, I was the one that wanted to be Wonder Woman. You know, when we were kids playing outside, wanting to not go to bed, they would always give us a story. And grandmother was reading a book, and she said in David Copperfield, whether you decide to be your own hero or not is up to you. And I went, my own hero? I can be the hero of my own life. So I started looking for a hero. Well, Wonder Woman was the only woman I knew in the comic books. And at one point, I got up on the roof, I lassoed the tree, and I thought I could slide down that rope by tying it to the chimney of the house. Thank goodness my mother knew more about gravity than I did and stopped me from doing it. So when you said, what was I like as a young kid, that was it.
I think that summed it up. Wow. Your poor mother. I can't even imagine.
Definitely adventurous, but I think it's really interesting that even at a young age, you already had someone that was modeling for you, that you could be what you wanted to be. You just needed to make that determination.
But isn't that important that we have somebody to model for us, a leader that actually helps us show us the way? And when I started in real estate, I couldn't afford a babysitter. So I put my kids in a little red wagon going door to door with the kids in tow. And I realized that if you wanted to be more, do more, have more, well, you just had to make it happen.
So did you realize that at a young age? Were you someone who naturally took charge, or did finding that leader in yourself happen over time?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I didn't want to take charge. I think I was more forced into it. When I was 11 years old, we had one bathroom with 8 people in the household. And so the 5 kids, we had a rotation. And I happened to be number 5, unfortunately, that day. And my brother was in the restroom. And of course, I wanted to look good like every woman does, right? Or girl, and getting ready for school. So I start pounding on the door. Larry would not come out. I took a rat tail comb, jammed the door, hit it, popped open that lock. And unfortunately, there my brother was laying on the floor. And I thought he was dead. I screamed so loud, and my parents came running, and of course he ended up going in an ambulance. He ended up with a brain tumor. Now, this was back in 1961, so, they didn't know much about brain tumors. Right. They had really not a whole lot to help him with. They did the best they could. They did surgery, and 2 months later, they sent him home. Well, the reason I tell you this story is because when Mom and Dad were gone for 2 months, someone had to run the store, and they chose me to help out. Now, at 11, you start learning about P&Ls and inventory and all these things that you had no idea that you had to be part of. And so when you said, did you always take charge? Sometimes, because I thought I was kind of the victim, being told I had to be in charge versus stepping up to the plate and saying, of course I will. I desire to be in charge.
That is a lot of responsibility for an 11-year-old.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, was that something that helped you gain confidence that you've been able to use moving forward in life?
Without a doubt. I mean, when you're thrown into a position like that, and of course they had other workers there, and we'd always worked as kids. I started working at 5 in the grocery store, and it's a very small town, so everybody knew everyone. Now, the greatest part about all of this, though, by 9th grade, I had those P&Ls pretty well under control. I knew it had to be done. I could do work shifts. I could do all sorts of things because, see, my brother had to have numerous surgeries. He had to learn how to walk and talk 4 different times in his life. And that taught me that no matter what we do, different is not going to come knocking on our door. It's going to actually make the door fall in, right? And as you're sitting there and you're going, I don't choose different, but sometimes different chooses us. And so Larry, when he came back home, he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. And my mom and dad, in their infinite wisdom, literally bought him a tape recorder. Now, that's the old reel-to-reel for those that are listening that don't know what a tape recorder actually is. And I would say a word, he would say a word, and then we would rewind and play it back. One word at a time taught me that, one, you go for it. You see if you can do it. You fail at it, then you find a better way and you do it again. And you do it over and over again. So it taught me that success was repeating greatness with failure all along the way. So we literally learn how to adapt our way into success. When most people, they don't think failure gives us a return. We talk about return on investment. We really need to have a return on failure.
That's good advice.
That is so important. A lot of times the success only comes from failure. You have to fail so you know what to do better.
I know. Isn't it interesting, though? A lot of the kids, they're taught like they shouldn't fail, like it's a bad thing to fail. And John Maxwell, who's been my mentor for 29 years now, he just wrote a book on return on failure, which is a great book to remind us as parents to allow our children to fail. Sarah Blakely, you know, her parents, every night they would say, what did you fail at today? And if the kids didn't say they had failed at something, he said, you did not work hard enough today to have success. And look at where she's at today. One of the most successful women out there, who's a great entrepreneur, went door to door, store to store, with them saying Spanx would never work. Well, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of women out there saying differently.
I would say every single day they say differently, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you learned a lot of lessons at a very young age. You were taught hard work, having to run a store at the age of 11. And because you were running a store, what did you think your life was going to look like? Did you think you would stay in that business? Did you have dreams of doing something different?
That's such a great question. No, I did not want to have a grocery store at all. I didn't even want to own a store. I went to college. I majored in physics and math, and I wanted to go to NASA. You know, I wanted to be part of the space program. And of course, I watched all of it from afar. And little did I know that all of the things I worked at and working at the physics lab, the things that I learned would actually help me in sales. The things that I learned in the grocery store about adding people to value, or adding value to people. Get your words right here, Dianna. You know, it's so fun because you look at that cart, and Dad taught us if they had ice cream in there, you were to say, oh, ice cream with no toppings, no cherries, no nuts. Don't you think your family would want sundaes for dinner tonight? Or something like that. People call it an upsell. He actually called it adding value. And he said, whatever you do, you always add value, not having them buy more. You find out what you can suggest or what you can give them that is more. So you couple those things together in real estate, and you're adding value to people. You're helping them achieve their goal. You're helping them become all that they desire to be as a family. You make it all about them. Well, I think that's a winning combination.
I agree.
And you mentioned real estate and going into that. After we take this break, I really want to delve into what drew you to real estate and then how your business and how your coaching had developed from that. So stay with us here on A Seat at the Table.
This is A Seat at the Table, where we talk about the work, the grit, and the moments that changed everything. Pull up a chair. The conversation continues.
And that is the conversation that we are having with Dianna Kokoszka. And before the break, we were talking about your journey led you into real estate. What drew you into real estate?
Well, I had purchased a home, and the realtor kept saying, you sold home care products when you were going through college. I paid my way through college. I worked 3 jobs, and one of them was selling. One of them was telemarketing. And she said, you did all of this. Why don't you make some money at it? And I thought, well, that would be fun. I couldn't afford real estate school. And I happened to be up with a young child that was very ill one night, and I looked on television to keep me awake, right? I was going to watch something. And PBS had an auction going. I was so excited about that auction that I listened, and all of a sudden, a real estate course came up. I think it's a God thing, to be real honest with you, because I looked at my checkbook and I could afford $50. And I thought, $50 for a $1,000 course? Who am I kidding?
What a bargain.
Yeah. And then I started hearing my dad say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I thought, what the heck? I called in the bid for $50. Well, it was 2 a.m. So who in the world wanted to go to real estate school except for some little gal there with her kids
Up with
right
the sick
away?
kids.
Right?
Is that not a mom story right there?
And so I won. And then after I won and I went and I got my real estate license, I thought, oh my word, this is a male-dominated world. I had no idea that I would have to go to 12 offices before somebody would actually give me a chance to sell real estate. They would say, oh, we already have a woman in our office. And when
They only had room for one?
No, they only had room for one, except for Sam Bright. It was about 6 o'clock at night. I looked at him and I said, Sam, I bet you desire to go home to your family. So do I. And I'm not leaving this place. You can lock me in or you can hire me. Give this woman a chance. And he goes, well, we already have Ray Kokosz. And I said, I know. And there's room for 2 women. And he said, okay.
Okay, back up. What year was this happening?
That was back in the early 70s.
Wow.
And so it was very interesting. And of course, putting my kids in a red wagon going door to door, you can imagine what people said. You're going to list your house with a woman that puts her kids in a red wagon that does dishes at night. And I'm going,
see, I would have thought that would have been a good marketing tool, having the kids with you. And listen, I get having a family. This is the perfect house to raise a family like mine in. Did you use them that way?
Well, you know what? I don't like using kids at the same time. Yes, I did. I mean, it was, hey, put food on the table, right? And their kids like my kids as I went door to door, because all those women had kids too. And I literally got to know the people. I got to know their names, their dog names, their kids' names. And I found that a lot of women wanted to know how to invest in real estate. And so I started doing investment classes at night where a woman would invite her friends or neighbors over, have dessert, and the men and women would have fun. I'd go in and teach about investing in real estate. I would leave. They'd keep the party going. So it worked out very well for me.
Is that what led you to create Bold, which business objective, life by design?
You are so kind. No, that was the start, right, back in the 70s. Now, let's fast forward, sell a lot of houses, open up my own company. Keller Williams was a great company, and they said, why don't you come and join us? And I thought about it, and I said, okay, maybe. And then my husband, not at the time, owned a Keller Williams franchise. And he said, look, we need help. We have not made money for 6 years. Please come be the leader of that company. So I went in, started selling, then started leading it. And a year later, Keller Williams Realty International called and said, would you come and take over this consulting division we have? I went and looked at it. I said, I won't do consulting. However, we can change it to coaching. Made a lot of changes. Now, 2008 comes around. Real estate is bad. Agents are getting out. Many of us remember those times. It was bad times for everyone financially. And the president of the company, Mary Tennant, came to me and she said, Dianna, write a course that will help our agents. And I said, okay. And she said, don't tell anybody about it. Just write the course. So I went back to my journals. I started thinking of all the things I had done through markets that had been similar to this. And I wrote an 8-week program. I went in, started teaching it. Then I had coaches that I trained to teach it. Well, pretty soon we had over 200,000 people that had gone through it, realtors that said it actually saved their career. And of course, Gary Keller, Mo Anderson, Mary Tennant, Mark Willis, all of the big wigs at the company, they said, you actually saved the company. And then I became CEO of MAPS Coaching and Training, the company that I helped develop and build. So it was kind of a evolution of things, if you will. People still talk about Bold today. Now they've rewritten it and they've done some upgrades and whatnot to it for today's world. Yet there are still many people. Some people took it 20 times over and over again because it kept telling them and helping them to become more from where they were. We had people go from making $400,000 in real estate to making over $4 million in real estate, building teams that were larger than they ever thought possible. And I was just so blessed to be part of that. And people would come up and say, Dianna, you changed my life. You know what? Wow. I didn't change anybody's life. I may have said something. I may have written something. Yet they had to make a decision to change their life. And that's what we're talking about tonight, is actually having you make a decision. What are you holding back for? You know, I told you about Larry and how he would say one word at a time. My sister, she also had a brain tumor. She couldn't speak. It was where she would think it and start to talk, and then the thought wouldn't come out of her mouth anymore. And yet she continued to work at it. Do you know how many people are out there listening to us right now? They have words and they're not willing to speak them. They have words inside of them, maybe a book inside of them, and they're not willing to write. They don't think they have what it takes. Yet I look at Larry, I look at Patsy. They didn't have what it took, yet they did it every single day. They got up and they fought for what they wanted to do, what they wanted to make of themselves. And my brother, he couldn't really talk into a phone like today, yet he would text. Sometimes he would use a pencil, yet he would text at least 10 people a day, giving them encouragement. And I'm going, what words are we using? Are we giving each other encouragement? So if you're out there listening to this, I'm going to challenge you to give encouragement to somebody tomorrow or even tonight. Call somebody and tell them what they meant to you. Give gratitude, because you know your brain cannot be in gratitude and negativity at the same time. So we get to choose every day. Use your words, use them wisely, and use them to help other people.
What were the words that you were using in the curriculum that you built that you think was resonating with people that then did lead them to make the choice to change their lives?
What a great question. The words I am. Whatever we use after I am defines us, and the unconscious mind takes it in, and it says, your wish is my command. We're all given a reticular activating system, a part of our brain that's called the RAS for short, and it's like our Google search engine. We say what it is that we desire, and just like Google, you type it into the computer. It doesn't show you everything on the World Wide Web. It shows you only what you ask for. Well, that's what your RAS does. So when I say, oh, I am crazy, well, let's make some more things for you to look crazy about. If I say, I am successful, I am a great leader, it will show you ways to become more. It will help you find ways. Here's an example. You buy a new car. You drive it off the lot. And as you drive down the road, how many times do you notice the exact same car?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't see them before, but when you bought it, then they're everywhere.
You started a new trend? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You're ridiculous. Your RAS said it's not important until it was. So what are we saying after I am? Other words, like when I coached people, this one lady, she kept saying, I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I said, honey, let's change that word to fascinated. I'm so fascinated, because when we're frustrated, we're shutting down the creative part of our brain. allowing us to only look and focus on the problem. When we say, I'm fascinated and looking for a way out, we start becoming creative, knowing that there is a way and we'll look for it.
You said it's not important until it was. When did you know it was important to pivot or transition from the real estate world to bringing your message to a broader audience in coaching?
When I was helping one family at a time, and I realized as a leader I could help more and have a ripple effect developing other leaders, that as that ripple effect went out, I wasn't just adding value to one person. I was adding value to one person who added value to another, who added value to another, and it just kept going. And that's what's important to me. Moving from success to significance. Success was all about me. And then I got to a point where I wanted to make it all about other people, and that's when significance came in.
So was there one defining moment that you said, okay, this is what I need to do? And how did you go about setting up coaching internationally? You go around and talk to people and prove that you're leaders. You just need to figure it out for yourself.
Well, it was one conversation at a time because I went to Keller Williams International, great company, and I started working at a coaching division. They already had two other people. The president and the CEO would not use MAPS coaching. They used Johnny Johnson and Craig Proctor and thought they were great, and nobody really cared about MAPS. And there I was. I had let all the people go except for one coach and myself, and I just started one conversation at a time, asking people how I could help. I started coaching 10 people for free, and I said, after 4 months, here's what you'll do. You'll either say, yes, it's working, and when I get your business to go up, you'll join MAPS coaching, and you will become my poster child, and you will spread the word everywhere. And that's exactly what happened. From those 10 people spreading the word and getting other people to join, we ended up with almost 5,000 one-on-one clients, 500 one-on-one clients that were bi-weekly. The others were monthly. And we had group coaching going with over 10,000 people, and of course, Bold going with over 100,000 people a year going through it. So it was very good.
So is everything new now, coaching-wise, is it still rooted in real estate, or have you branched out to just leadership in general or building businesses in general?
When I stepped down as CEO, I did keep a lot of realtors, and I do a free Tuesday Q&A call. And most of them are realtors that get on it every single Tuesday. I did branch out, though, and start in the leadership realm because of John Maxwell. And I do a mentorship program now with many different businesses involved in it, where twice a month we have Zoom calls. We learn about strategies, about business, about leadership. Of course, John does some of the calls as well. And then we have events, and I love surprise events, where one time I had them go on the bobsled of the Olympic track. I mean, when you're going down there, I went down first to show them it could be done, and I don't know why I did that. That was the craziest thing I've ever done.
Well, I want you to hold that thought. I want to hear more about that story, and then also more about your leadership and coaching when we come up after the break here on A Seat at the Table.
Everyone wants a seat. Few know what it takes to earn one. The long road, the hard lessons, the moments that define real leadership. That's what we talk about here. You're listening to A Seat at the Table.
Welcome back. I'm Melinda Brandt alongside Ashley Stroud. And today we're talking with Dianna Kokoszka. And before the break, you were talking about getting into the leadership and the mentorship part of your business. You took people bobsledding. Go ahead and finish that story for us, because I want to know how that turned out.
It turned out great. Everybody had a great time. However, I've got to say, as you go down the bobsled, I mean, you have this helmet on, and thank goodness you do, because I felt like my head, even though you keep your neck very, very stiff, and he told me, put your arms against the side of the sled, and you put your feet on those pedal type things. And I went, my feet don't fit on the pedals. I'm not tall enough to do. And he said, well, then push against the sled real hard. And I did, but it was like bang, 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 bang. That's what I felt like going down. And the first curve, it was fun. Second was fun. By the fourth one, it was like, how soon is this going to be over? You start going faster and faster and faster. And pretty soon you're going to the right, to the left, and you don't know which way you are until at the end you come to a stop and you go, thank you, God.
You survived it.
And then I got out and they said, how was it? And I said, wonderful, you have to go.
Well, and I would imagine just in how you describe that, there's lessons to be learned.
Yes. First of all, you hang in there and you push it, whatever you need to push against, right? Because you're going to have obstacles. And the obstacle was going down the track, and I had to push against the side to hold myself together. And sometimes having that support, which was a sled, sometimes we need people to support us. Sometimes we need to be the support for someone else. When we use our words, back to the words again, to help people become more. See, so many people, they want to help people do more, and they don't realize that that isn't the way that life works. The victims of the world, they go, well, if I had what you had, I could do what you do, and then I could be like you. And I go, no, that's not right. The villains of the world, to me, say, oh, you got to do more, do it, work hard, right? And then you can have what someone has and you'll be like them. And I go, no, the heroes of the world understand you've got to be like them in order to do what they do. Then you'll have what they have. And eventually you'll be able to give back. Until we're being who we desire to be, then every morning we wake up, we've got a choice. Are we going to still stay where we're at, doing the same routine and expect something different? Or are we going to decide today, who is it that we desire to become? And then start becoming that person before breakfast.
And that goes back to those I am statements, I'm guessing, correct?
Oh, that's great. Yes. Great way to connect the dots.
Is there a cheat sheet for deciding who you should be or deciding who it is that you're meant to be?
You know, in my book, I talk about writing your eulogy, and that sounds really creepy, I know. Yet, when I wrote out my eulogy, what it was I desired for people to say about me when my life on this earth is over, I looked at it and I started reducing it down, and I reduced it down to she added value and made a difference every day. That was it. So now I get up every morning at 7 a.m. My phone has an alarm and it says, what will you do today to add value to others? And at 7 p.m. it goes off and it says, what did you do today to add value to others? And so knowing what it is that I desire to do every day, it makes it very simple. And adding value can actually be opening up the door for somebody, watching somebody like in the airport the other day. I was leaving to go to a speaking engagement, and there was this lady, and she was working with all these suitcases and had a dog. And I mean, I just stopped and helped her with the suitcases. You'd have thought I had given her the world. It was not that big of a deal. Yet that's adding value. A lot of people think it's all about money and giving money. No, you can give of your talent. You can give of your time. You can give of a free word of encouragement.
So if you're struggling with trying to find what your potential is in life and what you're meant to be, your suggestion is to think about it from the end and then just reverse engineer, right? Like what you want people to think about you and what kind of legacy you want to live, and then just reverse engineer what that person would be doing, thinking, acting like.
Right. Stephen Covey said it best, didn't he? Start with the end in mind. That's where it actually came from. I can't take credit for that.
Well, you said earlier that you followed John Maxwell's teaching for decades. What lessons from him fundamentally changed the way you lead or the way you mentor people to lead?
So many things. It would take us months to go through everything that I've learned from him. When I started, there were literally 14 people that he invited into his inner circle. And he gave us all the inner circle ring, which I still wear today. And it was where we sat at the round table and we talked about leadership, about the things that we were struggling with. We didn't want to go into burnout. Some people had already gotten there. we talked about goals, strategies, what we could do, but mostly about leadership, how to help others, developing the leader within us, developing the leaders within other people. And over, I've been in countries with him and his team, bringing values to schools, which he's in 10 or 12 different countries now. That we're actually in 40 states already in the U.S. teaching values to kids in grade school, junior high, and then into high school with the I Lead program, letting them lead the programs themselves. And when you say, what have I learned? I've learned that you grow within or you go without. I've learned that every little thing that we do, we've got to be intentional with our life. His book, Intentional Living, is one of the best books I think that he has written. And all the things about our growth. Growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to be better than today. So many things.
I haven't read that one, but I did read his 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And we actually read it with our leadership team. So it was a group of us all reading it together. We took a chapter a week and just did, one law a week and then discussed it at our leadership meeting. And I remember reading that book for the first time, and it felt like sacred text. Like when you're reading it, it jumps off the page to you just how meaningful and impactful it is. It was one of the most, I would say, inspiring books I've ever read too. I absolutely adore that book, but I need to read the other one. What did you say it was?
Intentional living?
Intentional.
Yes. And Did you have a favorite law? I was just curious.
I mean,
you may not.
Well, the one that resonated the most with me, I think, was the law of momentum, right? And once you get momentum going, and I think it was because it was at a time in our business where we had struggled to maintain momentum. And so that big mo was just kind of it was a rally cry for our team, just to remind us of how important it was to, get momentum going. But I mean, all of them were so good. I mean, they were, I think I printed them out for a while and we would talk about them, and I would recommend that book to anyone.
I still have the 21 laws in my office, and it's hanging on the wall, beautifully framed.
Oh, I should frame it. I think I printed mine out and put it up with a tag. That would be a better way to display it for sure.
You know what's interesting is with the laws, just a quick story. I read the book, and I'm somebody that if I like a book, I want to meet the author and ask them more questions. So I find out that he's speaking in Dallas. Now, this is back in the day when a lot of people didn't know him other than him as a pastor. So he's written the 21 laws, he's speaking, and he's signing books after. And of course, I kind of wait until the end because I want to be able to talk with him and letting people go in front of me. And when I get up there, he goes, "What's your name?" He has his head down, and I put my hand right over the book. And I said, "Look at me. My name is Dianna with 2 N's. And you said that you're John and you're my friend. I'm Dianna, and I will become your friend." And so every time I would go somewhere, I'd put my hand out and say, "Dianna with 2 N's, and I will become your friend." And it wasn't long before I had his cell phone number, and he and Margaret and I mean, great people.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, did he remember that?
Oh, yeah, he still does. Now he says, "Is it with 2 N's?"
Well, I would imagine, and you touched on this just a little bit, Ashley, with feeling the momentum, like how do we get it going again? I know there's got to be times, even for the best leaders, that doubt starts to creep in. Can I do this? Will I keep doing this? How do you get over that? How do you move past that doubtful season?
That is such a great question because we all have it. We all have doubt of some kind. And I think it's because our brain really wants to stay in the comfort zone. It likes to go fast. It likes to just go. And we have these pathways that we formed in our brain by having those same thoughts over and over again. And it wants to take those same pathways. So when we start doubting ourselves and we start talking to ourselves, because we all have storytellers in our mind. One of them is a very devious storyteller. It's the one that puts those doubts there. Yeah. And we start saying, "I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not sure I can do it again. Last year was a great success, yet what if we don't do as well? What if I mess up? What if I'm not a good parent because I just had my first baby? What if? Let's take those words, what if, and get rid of them. What if only lives in our mind. What if about when it turns out? What I have found with the doubt is I make a list of, I put 1 through 20, and I write down, what are all the bad things that could happen if I do this? Because I'm not sure I can. Then I put down, what are all the good things that would happen if I do this? And I work to get 20 on the good side, and it's challenging to get 20. Yet what you find is you're literally training your brain to look at what the good things are that could come from it. And pretty soon that doubt starts fading. Now give gratitude for having what it takes, because I believe you give gratitude ahead of time, and you're starting to have a winning combination. Yet if I can find somebody out there that hasn't had doubt, I'd like to meet them, because I haven't found anybody yet. Have you?
No.
No, like you said, we all have it. Maybe it shows up in different forms, but we all absolutely have doubt. And from those lessons, I think you can learn a lot, even if there is a struggle there. Through the doubt, you can learn a lot from that, and it helps shape you moving forward. Have you had any of those instances that
Oh, yeah.
it shaped moving forward?
I did an exercise class once that I thought I was going to die, and I doubted I would make it till the end. I mean, doubt was all over in my mind. I was literally working out with an Olympian athlete trainer, and he kept going, get your knees higher, get your knees higher. I was in St. Kitts. I thought it'd be a great way to start the vacation. I could hardly walk. And I thought, well, I should have listened to that doubt, because it kept saying, I doubt you can do this. Don't do it. And I thought, yes, I can. So sometimes I call it ego if you desire, yet I think sometimes I think I can do things that I probably shouldn't even attempt.
That's funny.
That is funny. So what I think is interesting about your story is it's just not about building a successful career. It's about building successful people, recognizing the potential in them. While we've got to take another quick break, when we come back, I do want to dive into what you have learned by spending the decades speaking to people. What are they asking you, and how we move forward? And then, of course, we have the quick rapid fire section that we have coming up as well. So stay with us. This is A Seat at the Table on News Radio KLBJ.
A seat at the table is never given. It's claimed through endurance, sacrifice, and resolve. This is where the stories behind real leadership are told. This is A Seat at the Table.
And we are continuing our conversation with Dianna Kokoszka, who has spent decades helping people grow businesses, become strong leaders. And I wanted to shift from your story to the lessons you've learned from working with so many different people over the years. What have you learned about human nature?
Well, a lot about me and human nature, a lot. I don't want to give some things up, yet we have to give up to go up, right? I mean, how does a caterpillar become a butterfly?
Yeah, transformation.
It stops being a caterpillar.
Right.
And a lot of people want to hang on to that, don't they? I mean, have you ever had a time in your life when you thought everything was going so good and you didn't want to have something go bad, you didn't want to change, and you hung on to that idea and you realized that you weren't changing with the times? I mean, AI is a good example right now. A lot of people were fighting it at first. The people that jumped on the bandwagon and said, I'm going to learn this, their businesses are flourishing in many, many ways.
Is that part of why some people stay stuck? Is that this is what they know? It's easier to do the rut than to look outside the box and see what else is going on?
Exactly. Their belief is that if I get outside of my comfort zone, I may fail. And if I fail, what will that do? Where will my family be? Will I lose money? Sometimes people let their checkbook do their thinking for them. And that's very frightening, because we all have a financial thermostat in our head. And I think this is why they stay there. If that financial thermostat is set, let's say at $100,000, I have watched this over and over again, especially in real estate. I would speak with people and I'd say, what is it that you desire to make this year? I want to make $200,000. And I said, well, okay, last year, what did you make? And they go, $100,000. I go, well, what if you made 150? Oh, that'd be great. I'm making more than I did last year. Well, what if you made 120? That'd be great too. Well, what if you made 90? Oh, no, I don't want to go backwards. 100. I've got to make at least 100. Now I know that is their financial thermostat. Unless I raise that belief is so strong in their head, and they've proven it to themselves that that's what they're worth. And therefore, they'll sabotage themselves in many, many ways to stay with that net worth of themselves, that value they've given to themselves, because the values that we give are the rules that we're going to live by. We set the rules on ourselves, or we allow other people to set them for us, which is even more frightening.
Well, one of the things that kept coming up as I was preparing for this show is the mindset. How much of that happens between our ears?
Well, I always say the marketplace is always between your ears, that's 6 inches. It's not out there, it's right up here, right? And as we point to our head and we realize that we're in charge, I have read many research studies. 95% of our success is mindset. 5% is skill, talent. And as we know, talent will only take you so far. You have to put effort behind that talent. Yet the mindset with Olympians, they work on mindset. They all have mindset coaches. And yet most people, it's what can I do? Instead of how can I think differently? How can I think better? How can I think more of myself? What would I have to become? Who would I have to become to do the things that I desire to do? And, well, when you started this radio show, did you have doubt?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Anybody going to listen? Are we going to have anybody that wants to be on the show? Of course they were there.
Right. And then what were your beliefs? Did you have people that say, oh, I call them the nefarious crabs, right? We had the caring crabs. The nefarious crabs are the ones that don't want you to get ahead. They're the ones that are jealous of you, so they keep pulling you back down, right? Like 2 crabs in the bucket. You don't have to put a lid on it. They'll pull each other down. Or a caring crab, like a very caring family member that says, oh, don't do it. I don't want you to get embarrassed. What if nobody shows up? I mean, did you have any of those types of crabs in your life?
Yeah. I mean, well, not necessarily with the radio show. I think I was pretty well supported in that, but definitely with starting Plumbing Outfitters. I mean, I can definitely remember people in my life being like, business ownership is like, it's a lot of work, and how many businesses fail? 90% of businesses fail before 7 years. And, is that really something, knowing how much of a high achiever I am, like knowing that I don't do well with failure and I need to work through that, just getting, it's right? Like that. And I feel like it's a motherly instinct too, can sometimes be very, like just wanting to protect your children from all the defeat that is out there.
Yes.
Well-meaning intentions, but,
I want to say, knock on wood, I don't know that I've ever... Well, let me take that back. I can remember when I decided that I was going to go into radio and TV, and my mother said, you're going to become an alcoholic. That's what they all do. And I was like, I'm going to put a little bit more trust in you, Mama, that you raised me better.
That's funny.
That's funny, especially since your door out here outside says no drinks allowed.
See? She should have just come to the studio. She would have known better.
Oh. That's it. And when you talk about mindset, do you know how many parents out there that put a fixed mindset in their kids? For example, they get an A on a math test and they go, oh, I knew you were great in math. Oh, you will always be good in math. You've always been good with numbers. Well, that says some kids are good and some kids aren't good, which means it's a fixed mindset, for heaven's sakes. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, wow, an A in math, look at the effort you put forward. If you put that much effort forward in whatever you do, you're going to be successful, because it's about effort, not about talent. Talent's going to help. Yet you show me somebody with very little talent that is consistent, that works at it every day, that builds their skill, that believes in themselves, they will outdo talent over the years every time.
So is that the secret sauce? You've mentored leaders over the world. What qualities do the best leaders have in common?
So glad you asked that, because, see, when I started studying mindsets in neurology books, and every time I would read, I'd hear a different mindset. And I would go, how many are there? And as I'd write them down, and it was hundreds. And I went, okay, what do the top leaders, how do they act? What mindsets do they have? And I narrowed it down to 7 that I believe actually limit us and 7 that liberate us. The other part that I found interesting is, how do you know? It lives in your unconscious mind. See, we know what's in our conscious mind, yet in our unconscious mind, we don't know. So for 2 years, working on a mindset assessment that actually allows people to know what percentage of their mindset is fixed versus growth, how much is gratitude versus entitlement, positive versus negativity, humility versus hubris. I mean, all these different types of mindsets. And when you look at the percentage, and I coach a lot now with the mindset on how to go to an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And that's the biggest one I'm finding in the world today, is so many people are going into that scarcity mode versus abundant. And some of the things you can do are very simple. Like, one thing is take a walk in the morning and look at the grass. You can't count all the blades. It's abundant. The leaves on the tree, if it's summertime, it's abundant. Everything, it's abundant. You hear the birds. I mean, out in Lakeway, you see all the deers. They're abundant, right? I mean, we live in an abundant world, and yet we put ourselves in scarcity every day. So those are the things that I love to help people with, is getting into a mindset that is going to liberate them and propel them forward into becoming the very best version of themselves.
Is this information what you wrote about in your book? Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, the book is called Becoming More. You can't get to better until you get to different. Most people don't want different. If you remember Blockbuster, they didn't want different. I mean, Netflix said, buy us out. And they offered them a very low price. And they said, no, we're doing real good where we're at. We're not going to do anything different. Well, look at Netflix now. Most of us have it on our TVs, and Blockbuster, well, they went out bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we don't get to different, this is a model, and every chapter has a model, because I think if you have a model to follow, it makes it so much easier for you. And it's how to retrain your brain to a new way of thinking, because the story of our life is what we're living out today, and we don't change existing reality right now by saying, oh, I'm just going to change it. No, you don't do it by fighting it. You do it by creating a new story, so the reality actually goes away and becomes something new. And this book will help you retrain your brain to a new story, a new way of living, so you live a legacy that you're very, very proud of. And it all starts with your thoughts.
Well, speaking of legacy, when this is all said and done, what do you hope people remember about you?
That I made a difference and I added value every day.
Okay. Rapid fire.
We've got 3 minutes before her phone's going to go off to ask her what she did to add value.
I know, and somebody has it out.
You've got a long list today, though. I feel like you've got a long list today of all the value.
Well, we're going to get to rapid fire. This hour went by rapidly. Thank you so much for sitting with us. So rapid fire, this or that, we're going to start out with, and then one word answers, if you can, to some of the fill in the blank stuff. Okay, so here we go. Start over or start scaling?
Start over.
Mountains to climb or trails to explore?
Mountains to climb.
Big dream or small daily habit?
Big dream.
Teach a class or sit down one-on-one?
One-on-one.
Vision or execution?
Vision.
Influence or impact?
Impact.
Okay, complete the sentence. Leadership is?
Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. What could I not say that one, right?
I was going to call you out on that one.
And you said influence or impact. Both. Can I have both?
Success feels?
Wonderful. Significant sound that feels better.
Oh,
I wish more people
would believe in themselves.
My grandchildren have taught me
to listen.
What always makes you laugh?
A great joke.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
People that don't believe in themselves and act like victims.
What's the best leadership lesson you've learned from someone who was not a leader?
That you've got to step up to the plate and be willing to fail.
Okay, and our signature question, we usually ask, what does a seat at the table mean to you? I want to change that just a little bit. What's one seat you're still hoping to earn or create for someone else?
Speaking. I love to speak and to share what I've learned so other people believe in themselves. And I want to thank both of you because I think a seat at the table is wonderful. I've watched two women sitting here right now that have great smiles on your face. I know they can feel it over the radio. You care about each other. More importantly, though, you care about your listeners, and you're very selective. Not everybody gets a seat at the table.
Dianna, thank you so much for pulling up a chair with us today. We really appreciate you sharing your story, your experiences, and the lessons you've learned along the way. Before we go, I want to say a special thank you to our executive producer, Christina Lara. She does so much behind the scenes to help bring this show to life each month. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. If you missed a part of the conversation, you can find us online at A Seat at the Table.